First Nation and Native American Reservation Sightings, Part 9. The John W. Burns story continues. At the time, Indian Agent Burns said anthropologists all over the world were interested in the existence of these hairy giants. Certainly that isn't the case today. Anthropology generally takes a dim view of Bigfoot research, calling those of us with sightings delusional. One East Coast anthropologist made himself quite clear when he said to me, "Don't bother me with this rubbish." In 1942, the University of California sent an expedition into British Columbia wilds in search of the Sasquatch people. Members of the expedition were equipped for a lengthy search. Learning about Burns, the expedition members sought his assistance in enlisting the aid of First Nation guides and trail packers. The story is picked up there. In spite of the fact that they were offered $10 a day and all found, not one of my Indians would volunteer for the trip, declaring that such a quest was doomed to failure. The Sasquatch, detecting the approach of so many strangers, would immediately go into hiding. The academics from UC Berkeley set out without native helpers, but in less than a fortnight they returned, gaunt and trail-weary. Needless to say, they had discovered no trace of the wild men, and they vowed that so far as ordinary white folks are concerned, the route to the top of Morris Mountain was utterly impassable. They were very disappointed at their failure, of course, and a few days after their departure, ironically enough, another of my Indians claimed to have encountered a Sasquatch. This Indian, an old man named Chehalis Philip, had previously told me that in his younger days he often saw the hairy giants. On this particular occasion, he was fishing for trout in Morris Creek, a tributary of the Chehalis River. His canoe was gliding quietly along the sluggish mountain stream, close to the rocky terraced bank, when without a warning a rock was hurled from the shelving slope above, falling with a tremendous splash within a yard of the canoe, almost swamping the frail craft. Startled, Philip hurriedly glanced upward and observed a huge man covered with hair leaping down the steep declivity with the agility of a panther. Under one arm he carried a bulky object that proved to be another boulder. Reaching a point of vantage, the giant deliberately swung the big stone straight at the now thoroughly scared Philip, missing the canoe by inches. Believing that the Sasquatch was about to dive into the water and attack him, the old Indian cast off his lines and paddled frantically. Not all Sasquatch are aggressive or unfriendly. Apparently their individual characteristics are just as widely developed as those of ordinary mortals, as witnessed by what an Indian named Henry Napoleon had to say. The first time John Burns found out for sure that the wild men still lived around the Chehalis Reservation, Henry Napoleon told him, "I don't see any of them." Then 3 young men and myself were picking salmon berries on a rocky slope. In our search for fruit, we suddenly stumbled upon a large cave in the side of a mountain. This discovery greatly surprised us, for we thought we knew every foot of the mountain, but had never heard of a cave in that vicinity. Just outside the mouth of the cave lay a big boulder. We peered inside the opening, but could not see anything. Gathering some pitch wood, we lighted it and began to explore. Before we got very far from the entrance, however, we came upon a sort of stone house or enclosure. We couldn't make a very thorough examination, for our pitchwood torches kept going out. Finally, we left, intending to return in a couple of days and continue our search. But the old Indians, to whom we have told the story, warned us not to venture near the cave again, as it was undoubtedly occupied by Sasquatch. But we paid no attention to them and went off to examine the cave once more. To our great disappointment and surprise, we found that a big boulder had been rolled into the mouth of the cave, fitting as tightly as if it had been made for the purpose, and we were quite unable to move it. Henry Napoleon continued. Some years later, I was out hunting deer in the same neighborhood. It was just about dusk. I saw something I took to be a big bear standing on its hind legs, but when I stopped and raised my rifle, The creature spoke in a tongue very much like my own. He invited me to come closer, and when I did, I saw that he was a man over 7 feet tall. His body was very hairy. At first I was terribly scared, but his eyes looked kind, and he asked me to sit down and talk. He told me that during the winter the Sasquatch sleep like bears and that their home is on top of Morris Mountain, where no Indian or white man could ever find them. They live on roots, fish, and meat, just like us Indians. Then suddenly it grew dark, and he slipped away. It's important to point out, the Henry Napoleon testimony is another incident where the Sasquatch is alleged to have spoken in a dialect that was, this time, understood. And again, the physical height of the Sasquatch is an intimidating presence. The remark about sleeping like bears may indicate torpor or actual hibernation, but I'm not convinced that is the case. It may simply mean the Sasquatch prepared to hole up like the bear, since I seriously doubt the Sasquatch understand bear hibernation, but maybe. If DNA defines the Sasquatch as human, hibernation then wouldn't be physically possible. To be continued, and thank you for listening. There would be many parts to the reading of this book. If you like this reading, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to be sure to catch the future parts. We welcome comments, but please be considerate of others. If you have had an experience with or about Bigfoot, cryptids, UFO'S, paranormal, or any other strange happenings, and would like to share them on our channel to be read, please email them to sharingofstrangestories@gmail.com. We hope to establish a channel that can provide an outlet for people to speak freely of their experiences without ridicule from others. There are many of us out there that have had these experiences and have faced the ridicule. Emails will be read on our channel, so please keep them family-friendly. If you want to remain anonymous and do not want your name read to the public, please put that at the beginning of the email or in the subject line. Thanks again for listening, and stay safe.